Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Tech Talks with Jay. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever in the world you are watching this from. Hey guys, my name is Zara Carbonell, and I will be moderating today's discussion. Here at Tech Talks with Jay, finance isn't the only thing that is going borderless because we make sure that we jump along as well. This series is here to serve you with tech know-how from tech leaders and techpreneurs from all over the world. And of course, to cruise with you on this adventure, let me introduce the man of the hour, entrepreneur, speaker, and chief finance officer of Machnet. Ladies and gents, help me welcome Mr. Jay Dahal.
Hey,
Hey,
G, how's
Jay.
how's it
It's been a
going?
while. How are you?
I know, actually, I haven't spoken to you for a long time, actually. I just realized that. Yeah.
But nonetheless, we are here and things are as exciting as ever. And today's episode is entitled More Than Meets the Eye, How Remittance Has Impacted Lives in Nepal. And I know that this is very personal and important to you. And I'm really excited to get that ball rolling. We've spoken a lot about remittance, what it does for people, for families, for economies. And today we have someone very special who will be talking to us a lot more about where the industry is now, where it's headed. And I'm curious to know how growth might look like from here. I mean, any insights before we jump in and introduce our special guest?
Yeah, no, I think we'll probably write into speaker because I think it's very special to me. Because I got into remittance because of Bob. That's kind of like an initial milestone, to get to this business. And then second, Nepal is very near and dear because, as you know, I grew up there. I was born in Nepal, and then especially where about $8 to $10 billion goes to Nepal every single year, and which is a humongous number. If we talk about on GDP of Nepal, it's about somewhere close to maybe 26, 27, maybe even close to 30%. So I think it's really interesting space, and it's huge for Nepal. And I think I'm super excited to really talk with Bal and talk about his interesting journey in this remittance business, and then all the most interesting good seller story. So that's something I'm looking forward to hear more. So
I'm
bring
sure
him in.
everyone is too. I personally am. So, let's get the show on the road. Ladies and gents, our special guest for today is, as Jay said, the internet goat seller, the pioneer of remittances as a service, and creator of internet's first borderless neobank. Everyone, please welcome the founder of Xuno, Mr. Baj Joshi.
All right.
Hey, Bal.
All right. Thank you, Zara. Thank you, Jay.
Hey Valdai, how
How
are
are
you?
you? Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, and I look forward to kind of spending some moment with you and just kind of share, all the interesting things that I've gone through. So, but again, thank you for having me in Tech Talks with Jay.
Thank
We
you.
are thrilled. My gosh, Val. So no pressure, but Jay's been hyping you up big time. And I know everyone's like, okay, let's get to the conversation with Val
All
already
right.
and what
All
it's
right.
all about. Okay, so let's jump in. Um, First off, obviously the both of you are very deep into fintech and remittance specifically, and you both share quite that background in terms of witnessing how big of an impact remittance really makes in the world, in families, in people, especially in Nepal. For starters, I guess let's talk about what inspired you to tap on the cross-border industry space.
Okay. All right. So what inspired me? So back in 2001, I started one of Nepal's first e-commerce company called Tamel.com. Right.
Okay.
And so I was in San Francisco then, and the whole idea was how do you enable cross-border connections, right? So I was exploring an opportunity where people, living abroad could send, like friends and family, gifts, and then while they're away, and then guess what? And it wasn't really possible from Nepal because Nepal obviously did not have the infrastructure, and I think we were still in Pentium 2 and 16 kbps modem, but with no payment gateways, right? So I'm talking, and I don't know, right? So that's how I got started, and so interestingly enough, the business evolved into. So I'm a sociology and anthropology major, right? So I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a business guy. I'm not even a tech guy, right? So actually, I'm a sociology and anthropology major. So I think so. When the internet came about, I was in San Francisco, and myself being I don't like using the word immigrant, but myself being more of a transnational citizen, kind
Mhm.
of evolving through time on top of a technology rail called internet. I think that was an interesting transformation. So that's when I figured out, at heart, I'm a Nepali. I have social responsibilities, but how do I fulfill my responsibilities as a Nepali, a son, brother or a sister? I mean, like, a family member.
Die.
I as a die, right? That's how I got into it. So the whole thing was like, it evolved into a very interesting product selling of goats. So which went viral back in 2001 all over the world. So the whole idea was, people being able to send a gift of a goat, a live goat in Nepal, are doing this very crazy festivals called Dasai. That's what people do. They consume goat, right? So sending that gift is a more of a symbolism of, even though I'm away, I am with you guys, right? That's how it started. And then really didn't think that that thing actually went viral all over the world, but I learned a lot. So I'd say, not a lot of people know, but selling that goat was, probably one of the most interesting pioneering step of creating a cross-border commerce, right? So I wasn't really into e-commerce. I was more into moving money, I'd say, because everything was procured locally. Only thing that was different was people from 30 plus different countries were using the existing internet infrastructure and the payments infrastructure to send, like basically the goat back home to Nepal, right? Then quickly it evolved into, like people wanting me to send money back home.
Mhm.
So we're talking fast forward probably 2007, 2008, right? And and it was whole digital money transfer was in a very inception. So post 9/11, a lot of things have come into place. US was still trying to figure out how to regulate, especially the money transfer and then money transfer business. And it wasn't really too difficult to kind of get on it and then just register in one state and then, kind of provide the money transfer service. And because I was only doing digital, so there's not a lot of, process being set. And then fast forward 2009, US
Mhm.
passed something called the uh, IET rule, International ACS Transfer Rule, where they were very confused about how to regulate people sending money digitally. And so finally, they had a rule where they made it mandatory for everybody who's actually going to provide money transfer service. Doesn't matter if it's physically or digitally,
Mhm.
and they had to be regulated in all the states that they would provide services. And but
Yeah.
the thing is, I was under an arrangement, interesting arrangement, where we would, like debit a customer's account and then credit it to a Nostro. And believe it or not, ACH. I don't know how much you're familiar with the ACH, but ACH was also in the inception where you could debit and credit electronic, transfers within the US through on a NASHA protocol. So what we would do is we would collect money from the customers in a form of check, and then like it was a check draft actually.
Yeah.
I would collect their bank details online securely, and then thanks to the infamous President George Bush Jr. So he actually probably not a lot of people know. He actually put in actually one of the first foundation of electronic, payments infrastructure in the US. It's called Check 21 rule. So what that allows you to do is you could actually take a picture of a check and initiate debit and credit. So that was the
Mm.
beginning of ACH, right? So what I would do is I would take a picture of a say check, put that into our account, and then send. That's how I got started, right? But
Uh,
by 2012, the whole business actually went on a crazy spiral because the regulation had stopped, and that's when the interesting things started to happen.
That's right.
That's how I got into this.
Wow. No, I mean it's really come a long way since from where it started to where it is now. And I mean we'll talk about the developments later on, but I do know that Jay, you did mention that you got into the space also because of Bal, isn't that right?
Yeah. I
How did
think it
that
was.
conversation go?
I
You
mean,
saw what he was doing, it was pretty amazing, and you jump in.
okay. I don't know. I think. Man, I probably we start losing memories now. But I know there was days where we talked for hours just to understand how remittance work. Because if you know me that I'm into finance, tax and accounting was my expertise. So remittance was it's nothing that I know about remittance. Despite I now send money to Nepal using actually one of its platform in Tamil Remit, right? That's even before I started working at Machnet. So that's when we kind of spent a lot of time here. Actually, we came to SF, and then we spent a lot of time together, and then helped me understand what remittance means and how everything's worked out in terms of building this infrastructure. So kind of got a lot of I would say inspirations from Bob. So that's how kind of got into it. There are a lot of other people as well, but I think Valda definitely is the first person kind of helped me to get it started on remittance. So that's for sure. Yeah, I'm always appreciated for that.
All right.
It's
You know,
really gorgeous,
yeah,
man.
yeah, and then on top of that, I think, and the other thing that also inspired me to do this is it's because of the impact that it makes, right? I think we talked about this in other spaces, how remittance, it's not just sending money; it's really impacting people's life back home, either it's in Nepal or somewhere else. But again, Nepal is near and dear to us with the massive amount of money that goes in remittance. But has it been able to reduce the poverty in the country? I think absolutely it has. People have gotten a lot of healthcare,
Mm,
education because people go abroad and then make money and send back home so that their families or nephews or niece or cousins, brothers, sisters get educated. I think it has a massive implication in terms of education, healthcare, reducing poverty in the country in general. So I think over the time I definitely have evolved. I think I can probably vouch for that. But
Absolutely.
it's more than there was a time where I didn't know nothing about remittance, but now I think I know the impact that it does make. And again, I'm still learning like as a student, and it has helped the economy to grow at different facets, different sectors, right? So
mm.
it's really, really important in space, I think, and this is why we care.
Mm-mm. And
Yeah,
especially if you've seen that firsthand, and I think even Jay, you and I have spoken a lot about it. It's a completely different personification when you see people whose lives have actually changed because of these remittances.
yeah,
And we might think that it is, a small thing to worry about but when you put everything together, the amalgamation of the remittance that people send from one country to the other can literally save a life,
yeah.
especially at least in the Philippines or in other neighboring ASEAN countries. Hospitals here won't admit you until you pay first.
The
I
same
mean,
thing in
Mm.
paying
Nepal,
after
actually.
you
It's
risk
the
your
same
life,
thing in Nepal. It's crazy.
right? And I've
Yeah,
I've seen, well, I've heard of people whose lives who were able to go through operation just because the remittance came on time.
yeah,
No,
It
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, the
yeah,
impact is massive. I mean,
yeah,
okay, so we've seen also how impactful both your participation in the space has been. And we're curious, Val. You said that years back you had founded Tamil.com, which is also Tamil Remit. Yeah.
Yes, it evolved into
And,
Tamil. Yes,
and then now you have Xuno.
yes.
What would you say would be the
Okay.
differences of both?
Yeah. So very good question. So I think, like I said, I want to take you back to what my education background. So I'm more of an ethnographer that like to understand, how especially the transnational population evolved, in terms of time and how technology has driven it, right? So the starting was selling goat online, and then I got into money transfer business, Tamil Remit. I mean, first of all, actually, I was offering money transfer service from Tamil.com, but the Central Bank of Nepal actually nicely advised me that I shouldn't do it, and then they helped me. Actually, they are the one who actually even put the name of the company Tamil Remit. because they were liking what I was doing. And the interesting challenge before getting into Xuno is so one of the things that Machnet, right, actually has done. I started Machnet, from one table in a Tamil.com office. There was like three people, and so one of the reasons was because I really wanted to figure out how to get into this money transfer business.
Mhm.
So it's been around since 1876, started by Western Union, and then the barrier to entry was really high, right? And then one thing I was totally gung ho was like, all right, why cannot I offer this service? Why do I have to come up with hundreds of millions of dollars to offer this business? So that was the first step, right? So little I knew I was in the territory of challenging one of the most complicated businesses, one of the most complex businesses, one of the most, highest barrier to entry businesses, right? So the whole idea was like, okay, now I want to get into this business, but I don't really have the money to offer, all the millions that I needed. So we created this, to be very honest with you, I created Market not to kind of scale in the countries that have scaled, thanks to Jay and his new team right now. So I think the business is quite, like it's going up and running in 20 plus different countries, moving hundreds of millions of dollars, and then being probably the only company in the entire US providing this service, right? I really never expected that. And thanks to Jay. So I'll get back to how Jay
You
actually is the one
made me
who
proud.
helped this. Who help the business from a good selling company to a global API. And but anyways, so one thing I really want to stress is the struggle we went to build this infrastructure, right? So there was two ways. So either to get registered in all of these 50 states or
Mhm.
figure out a way around it. And thanks to Uber, so Uber kind of helped us understand how does a business as a service works. Then came the Amazon Web Services, right? So what we really wanted to focus on was the remittance as a service.
Yeah.
So I'm very open about this. I'm pleased to let you know. Kind of, I'd say I'm probably one of the most infamous fintech entrepreneur cross border, because obviously money is regulated. So I wanted to provide this service without having our own regulation. So
Mhm.
we were very much challenged. So all the large states, they basically sent us a ticket saying that you should shut down.
Yeah.
Multiple times, I've been questioned by legal authorities, right? And then after all of that struggle, finally, just before the pandemic, right? Just before the pandemic, it was, I think, California that said they like this model and then we're good to go. So, and then that's when I exited as a CEO and chairman because I was tired. It was mentally so exhausting that basically I was fighting with the regulators. I was fighting, trying to fund it. I was trying, I mean, literally, trying to set up partnerships. It was just crazy. So, fast forward, it created into an API where people can just literally, consume it at a nothing peanut price and then build their own experience and provide white label services. So I'm very, very pleased to let you know that Marknet is the first company in the entire internet, right, that basically inspired this whole fintech as a service, right? Now the pandemic happened, right? So after, I mean, like literally, I remember, I think it was my birthday, February 16 on 2020. I left as the CEO, I left as a chairman because I needed a break because mentally I had just gone through so much. It was just too painful, right? So now that it was the whole remittance as a service was legally recognized, and then I kind of wanted to get off the bandwagon. And then when I met Jay in 2018, and then I think that also kind of saved the company, right? Because the thing is, we were bootstrapped. So Jay came in, he came with the structure. He was in San Francisco. He came up with the capital that it required for us to go to the next level. So without him, I think the company would have probably shut down in 2017, I'd say, right? So then again, then what happened was like, all right, so now I was literally mentally exhausted because it had been at least 6 7 years, trying to get this up and running. And who were to know the pandemic would hit? So actually, like I had brought in this another really smart guy. His name is Ashish. Now he's the CEO, and I literally remember kissing him on the cheek and then said, you know what, you and Jay take it forward. I quit. Then guess what? March, April happens and the pandemic happens, right? So first year of pandemic, I'm kind of enjoying it. Market is onboarding customers. I'm kind of like going out in my kitchen cooking and just kind of relaxing. And then the pandemic opened up, and then right when the second pandemic again, second lockdown hit, And that's when basically my mind went berserk. Then what I saw was that, oh my God, we are now stepping into a borderless world, right? So for me, literally, money transfer business has not been a business. It's a religion. It's a philosophy. I've literally dedicated my entire life to build whatever, whatever we have built so far. And interestingly enough, I'm in the beginning of it, right? So pandemic two happens, and it's pretty clear. I saw the kind of evolution of digital money transfer, right? So this emergence of a new economy, right, where people and companies, like, we were excluded. I don't know if you've read about this book by Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat. So see, The World is Flat. He talked about the flat world, back in 2005, when the companies and the market were actually kind of on an equal level playing field. But there was one interesting, segment that was not on the level playing field, and that was people. So suddenly, the people and companies have started to do business beyond borders, right? Now, step one, that. Now, step two is, kind of interestingly, so I also saw the death of a digital money transfer business. So that, I mean, I say that very openly. Why, right? So why is the barrier to, we were the one who removed barrier to entry. We inspired banks now to get into this business. Now, in a physical money transfer business, like you would probably make around over 2 to 3%, up to even 7%, enough margins, to kind of sustain the business. Now, on a digital money transfer business, it was a race to the bottom, and everybody in the industry had always predicted that basically, digital money transfer will turn into commodity. So if it's turning into commodity, how are you going to create a business out of it? And that's what I focused, right? So to create a business out of it, I no longer saw it as a remittance. I saw it as an infrastructure for a borderless connections. It was no longer a remittance connection only. So it was a banking connection. So that's how I transformed from the, somebody who was starting Machnet, and then, turning it into a borderless bank.
And that's Juno.
Yeah,
And that's
that's Xuno. Yeah, I kind of
Okay.
figured. That's so
Okay.
exciting. Yeah, no, so before we hopped on, actually, I was also asking Jay to tell me a bit more about Xuno, and he did share that it touches on neobanking and remittance as well. But I feel like it's also super timely because our whole lives are literally online. And,
Yeah.
it, especially I would say there's a bunch of it still around the world, but especially in Asia, where you still see people in long, long lines just to deposit a check, just to
Mm,
get money from the bank, just to sign over whatever document is needed. I mean, it could literally easily take 4 hours of my life,
Yeah.
and at least with products and services like Zuno, it's a big solution for everyone. So
yes.
in a nutshell, what would you say is the big vision, the world that Zuno will
Okay. All
become?
right. So I think the big vision is creating an equitable world, irrespective of where you're born. So how come somebody who's born in Silicon Valley
Hmm.
has all the rights they need to function as a privileged human being? Why
Hmm.
not somebody who's born in Philippines? Why not somebody who's born in countries like Nepal to have
Hmm.
the same digital right to exist,
Yeah.
right, as a human beings, right? So that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to solve. So what am I trying to solve is, so let me throw you some numbers. So I'm a very number driven guy. The cross-border economy in 2022 was over 156 trillion dollars. All right. So out of which $800 billion is remittances, $1.6 trillion is freelancing, which is growing exponentially. People working, living in countries like Nepal and Philippines and getting paid in the US. And the companies, $2.6 billion, the merchants, and the rest is a B2B transaction. So if you look at it, over 150 plus trillion dollars is a business to business transaction growing exponentially, right? So what people has figured out is, people have figured out the using technology and being back in their home countries and being able to make money in Nepal. So if you're trying to find a senior developer, trust me, it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you another number. So in Nepal, so basically there are over 66,000 freelancers and only 106 tech companies. Now see the change, right? And that 66,000 number is going to grow exponentially because today's generation, right, the Generation Z and Alpha, they're not going to have one job. They're not going to work in one domain. So this generation, which makes up 50% of the world's population, need the banking infrastructure.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Xuno is trying to do, is to offer them the banking infrastructure. But again, so one of the coolest things that we're trying to do is, obviously there are companies like Mercury Bank, Payoneer, TransferWise, PayPal, and many more that are offering this service, right? So but what is the disconnect? What is the disconnect? So disconnect is, I am a Nepali citizen, I am in Kathmandu. Now I'm accessing banking services in the US, and then you can ask Jay here, our my dear tax expert, right? Is that legal? Probably not. Why? Because the thing is, he's not reporting that. Bal is not reporting that income to the like the authority here in Nepal. Hence, as a result, it doesn't matter how much money I make. I am not of. I'm not going to be able to access any financial or legal services here, because I'm not a legitimate question. So how, like that's a big issue, right? And
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to let you know Nepal is probably the first country in the world to have figured this out. So respective of whatever people hear about all the shit that's going happen in our country, so some of the things, especially on the borderless, is actually we are showing the world how it should be done. So one of the most critical part of Xuno is what I call is a goat API, inspired by my goat selling business, and also it means greatest of all.
Time.
No,
Transfer.
Transfer. I
That's
like that.
a
so
good
so
one.
it's a goat API. So goat API built on a ISO 222. So ISO 222 is going to redefine how money is going to move. The messaging protocol designed by the Swift, right? The whole API is already integrated into Nepal's infrastructure, which will allow, the biggest missing part, right? And the biggest missing part is which will allow financial institutions in this part of the world to connect with the borderless marketplace.
Mhm.
This is no longer a app. This is no longer a money transfer business. So this is an infrastructure. And then I think,
Mm.
thanks to my experience in Machnet, I understand. I think our people in Machnet would probably, I'd say, very pleased to let you know, all my team members in Machnet are probably one of the world's craziest and most, I think, I think, I don't know if anybody else understands this business at a level that we do at Machnet, and hence this is the outcome. So that's what we're doing. So we're literally, showing world how the money is going to move cross border. The digital, the cash will remain as is, right? And I don't think it's going to go die anytime soon because the segment that sends cash has a whole different, like need. But the thing is, the evolution of digital money transfer is has now evolved into a banking service. So we
Yeah.
are probably say we are way ahead of time in terms of how this should be done. And I'm pleased to let you know August 1 I go live.
That's awesome.
So
We're
it's
very much looking
like
forward.
like
Yeah, very
a
much.
universal bank
I'm
of
sorry?
sorts. It's like a universal bank of sorts.
Yes.
Then I have
Yes. So we're starting
digital
from
bank here.
US.
I have one.
Yes.
Ah,
So we're starting from US because I'd say over 40% of the B2B money actually, originates from US. So we're starting from US. So we already are acquiring licenses in Australia. And then after US, everything is pretty easy. US is the toughest part.
Yeah,
So the whole
that's
idea
awesome.
is tomorrow, I should, if I'm working in, a country in Europe, right, I should be able to not only payment service, but also the banking service. So I think that the beginning of the new world has begun. And I'm
yeah.
so proud of my entire team from Marknet, from Zuno, that we are actually showing world how it should be done. And God knows from out of all the countries in the world, from Kathmandu, Nepal.
Mhm. Do you think, Balda, that the whole remittance thing is probably going to eventually disappear and it's going to convert into banking? What are your thoughts on those?
Yes, yes, yes. So cash remittance will never die. Cash money transfer will never die because the segment and the users who acquire cash money transfer has a different set of needs that digital money transfer will not provide. Now,
Yeah.
if you look at the financial statements of two companies that we're all familiar with, one is Remitly and the one is Wise, you'll see the difference. So Wise making profit, Remitly is burning cash. Why? Right? So the reason is, I'm proud, we have a small role to play in that because we showed the world that you could offer a money transfer service without having your own license. Then quickly the bank took over. The barrier to entry now was got removed. Now it's all about what is your customer acquisition strategy and what is your customer retention strategy. So on a retention strategy, if you are just a purely thinking that in an industry which is turning into commodity, if you think you're gonna make money by through conventional, like revenue formula by paying FX and fees, forget it. It's not gonna happen. Like
So the remittance is going to die. So soon the
so,
remittance is going to die.
so digital money transfer is literally going to, I'd say, not die, but it's going to evolve into a banking product.
I see. Okay. So it will exist, but it's going to evolve into banking services per se.
It's gonna evolve into, you're not gonna like what I'm about to say, but a no making business,
Uh,
no money making business.
no money making business. So we should think about it at Machnet. All right.
Are
Good
considering
point.
your options, Jay.
No, that's good. We should get all the opinions, right, to understand and how should we evolve. Because I think at the end of the day, again, so Tomato Limit is a customer of Machnet, and we can kind of
Absolutely.
we need to understand how our customers are evolving, to understand and learn from them, kind of evolve together. Because at the end of the day, customers are the one who's actually paying us, and then if they are evolving, we should evolve with them, and then really
Absolutely.
understand the dynamics in terms of our services, products and services. Otherwise, what's the point? We can't be adamant about, my product, my way is high. We can't say that,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah. So I think so. Now with this new evolution, right now I'm so Machnet now. See, I wear two hats, right? So I'm also the founder and shareholder of Machnet. I'm also the founder of this new initiative. But the thing is, like Jay rightly put it earlier, but the role I'm playing is the big die role, right? So I'm a little crazy on my mind. So I try a lot of crazy stuff. Go out and say, hey, here's what I've discovered, and please, see if you can make a beautiful world with this discovery. So that's exactly what my role is.
And it's
Awesome.
cool because it's really financial inclusion to its core. I know that it's an original tenet of what fintech and remittance has always been about, but now we actually see it. It's tangible, it's visible. People can see that difference in their lives, and I think that's really huge.
Yeah.
One thing that we've also been speaking about a lot about has been AI, and I think it's something might be interesting for everyone to know more about the insights of you both on it. So let's talk about it. In terms of development of where remittance slash universal banking is headed, how do you think AI contributes to the change in that space, especially when it comes to risk management and compliance?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think we probably need to really understand what AI means, because I think these days, there's this buzzwords on, what OpenAI came out literally in the last 2 months ago. It kind of taken the internet, right? So when we talk about people and then they using the generative AI, which is technically
Mhm.
like a content generations, right? In
Yeah.
reality, I think it's just a prompt engineering. How are you prompting the machines and it's getting an output? However, it is a critical part about why this could be helpful for us. So I'll give you my spill, and then I'd love to hear what Bal is thinking in on remittance or evolving banking space there, right? I think, and we were thinking every single day at Machnet, and then we do have some projects going on just to understand our own database and see how can we leverage, probably mostly on risk management, like you rightly put up out there, because how do we do enhanced fraud detections in our technology, and how do we kind of can we do KYC, which is the know your customer better? Can we onboard our customer faster using AI, and then can you make a better user experience for them? I think initially, I think those are the few steps that we probably might wanted to check. And then I think the bigger thing, and you might have talked about it before, but just the transaction monitoring in general, right? How do you kind of look at the pattern recognition of the user? Because when you think about that, a whole lot of people don't understand, like what Balde said earlier, it's about cross-border. In cross-border, it's more riskier than sending money in the US domestic market. there are a lot of aggregation that you need to understand. Is multiple people sending money to one person, kind of like a red flag, and financing, or money laundering or trade financing, whatever you call it, or one person sending money to multiple different people. So those are all the patterns I'm talking about, right? And again, if you wanted to put those in a simple terms, it's a rules. We can call it AI, the buzzword, to kind of do a bunch of different things. But I think, can we utilize this to prompt our system to kind of use this models to train it to, so that we can recognize the pattern of transactions? Can we recognize a pattern of fraud that happened in the past, and can we mitigate that later in the future? Or maybe in general, can we make it easier for our clients to onboard, right? I think onboarding piece, transaction monitoring piece, and then at the end of the day, can we reduce all the fraud and chargeback that we get into the system? I think that's where we're thinking, but we'd love to hear what Balda has to say.
No, no, absolutely, Jay. You're absolutely right on. So I'll get a little bit more technical on top of it. So I'll get a little more on technical. So one of the reasons that cross border. So first of all is, we're looking at the largest economy of the world. We're looking at the $156 trillion economy, right? Remittance is what, $700-800 billion economy. So I mean, we're looking at an economy that will continue to grow, right? But the thing is, the foundation is definitely going to be compliance. Foundation is definitely going to be looking at to ensuring right people money and sending the reasons for the right reasons, right? Now, what do I see and where am I already focused? So let me get a little technical, because so what happens is, so there is something called the Swift generate message called the MT103. Okay, so MT103 is like it's generated by Swift every time a fund moves beyond border, right? So what it gives you is the visibility of a sending bank and the receiving bank. That's it. It does not have any more details on that. It's a clunky 30-year-old messaging protocol. Now that's being evolved into something called the ISO 222, and I'd say in South Asia we're probably one of the first one to have adopted. Even one of the world's largest corresponding bank, which I'm in communication with, Standard Chartered Bank, is actually trying to learn from us how we're doing it, right? So what's going to happen? So now, in the US, there's already a lot of infrastructure. Billions of dollars have been put into identifying, all the who's sending money for what reason and all that stuff, right? Now, in our part of the world, and so the biggest concern for the like the sending entities, doesn't matter if it's a bank, doesn't matter if it's an MSB, is they don't have the full scale visibility of who's receiving money for what.
Mm.
Something we're already doing. So something we're already doing is we have built a converter. All right. So we have already built a converter, and which is live, where we would take all the like identity information, KYC information, AML information, of the banks who already have this information, convert it, and then present it to a way where a regulator in the US would love to see, right? So what we are going to do now is we're now building an AI infrastructure. We're building an AI infrastructure to make sure that basically the visibility of that transaction, is real time. So we are not in the money. If anybody thinks, they are in the money moving business and they think they're in the money moving business, so good luck. So we are in the basically compliance management business. So one transaction goes down, the business is done over, right? So I think, especially in fintech, so there are two ways we're using it, right? So for making sure that we are legal, so making sure we're legal, we are actually and compliant. We are actually, like aggregating messages, aggregating user information in both the sender and the receiver part, to have a better clarity to see if they are legit. So that's one part. And the second part is in the and I think obviously inspired by Chat GPT, we also have something called Goat GPT. So don't be surprised if it's named after goat. What we're doing is we're now getting into every money transfer company in the internet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now Jay is trying to send $1,000 to Nepal. So what's the problem right now? So Jay is going to make sure, so he's not loyal to one company at all. So one of the biggest issues in digital money transfer is the loyalty is gone. But in case of physical money transfer, there's 120% loyalty. So somebody walks with a WAD of $350, not to a Western Union window. right? Somebody walks with the $350 to a Jose who is a friend of mine. Jose has a store where I go and buy. So my customer lifetime value engaging in a cash is different level than Jay trying to send $1,000. So when Jay is trying to send $1,000 digitally, so what he's looking is like he's looking at the best rate, lowest fees, and fastest speed.
Mm.
Okay. So how we're using AI is now, why would I want Jay to go out to my competition and send money, right?
Yeah.
So we're scraping every goddamn money transfer companies in the internet, and we have revenue engineered in such a way, we have removed the frictions in such a way so that Jay have a live visibility of what he's getting compared to the competition. So these are the two ways we're using: one in customer acquisition, in
Mm.
basically remaining compliant, making sure that making sure that we are aggregating the users' validation on both sending and beneficiary side,
Mhm.
and then basically presenting that. In fact, I also want to share with you. I think later this year I have an opportunity to show this to one of the I cannot name the name of the bank, but the thing is one of the most prominent banking as a service provider. To a management team of a banking as a service provider in the US.
Awesome.
If that happens, then I think the cross-border payment will go in a different route, and then I would have done my job. So I'm going to call Jay and say, "Hey, Jay, please turn this into."
That's funny. So do you think that when you actually make this FX and all these things visible, I'm just curious that Juno is going to have a better exchange rate than anybody else, or do you foresee that
All right.
this is going to be just like? And I think Wise does some capacity, and sometimes the Wise rate is lower than the other people. But I mean,
So
they
why?
are all into transparency, so I like that part. So I'm
Absolutely,
curious.
absolutely. So wise, I'd say openly is one of the most beautiful. I think one of the most beautifully done.
Oh my God.
Oh, we probably don't want to. We probably want to ting that.
All right. So make sure you put in there, right? They can come after me. So they have done it so beautifully. They have duped the customers so beautifully, and you gotta give it to them. It's a goddamn most amazing marketing company, right? So you can ask me any question about any company, and you can ask me how much they are charging and what level. I can share that with you. Now, let me talk. Let me deep dive into Vibe. So Vibe charges somewhere from 97 basis point to a 3,000 basis point to a dollar. All right.
Wow.
So $3,000 is obviously for the $10. If you're saying $10, so you're paying $3,000%, 3,000% on fees. But if you're sending $10,000, you're paying at least 97 basis points. Okay.
Mm.
See, the thing is, cash global average is somewhere around 350. Digital money transfer probably between $5 to $1,000, but in Nepal's case, it's between 1,000 to $1,500.
Mhm.
So now here is how the borderless bank is going to kill this business, right? See, why is the second thing that they do beautifully was multi-currency wallet. Every time a currency converts, you lose money. So there's one currency that's universal. There's one currency where there's no friction, and there's one currency that's been up and running for over only 150 years, and it is US dollar. All right. Now let's just share you an example. Let's just say you are trying to send a $10,000 from Mercury Bank. If you convert that into an NPR, good luck. You're going to lose at least 200 basis point. The money is going to get disappeared. However, if you're going to convert that into US dollars, guess what? You are not paying 97 basis point. You're
Mm.
hardly paying anything at all.
But
So
but I think I just learned something though. I would sorry to interrupt. I just learned that on Mercury Bank they use a intermediary bank which is Wise, and they do charge $25 international transfer. That you
yeah,
would never know because unless you inquire. And this is actually new to me too because again we're in the cross border payment space.
so let me
So
even
when you
give you.
send that the Wise terminates the transaction from Mercury in cross border payment space, and if I send money to Nepal, which I frequently do for the teams, right? So there is I saw there is a $25 that's get deducted on the wire that I sent, and we're actually inquiring. It's pretty recent. That's a news to me as well,
Yes.
and
Now
I
I'll
just I
tell you.
just
I'll
found out
tell
the
you.
other day.
Forget
So so
Mercury,
so
my
I'm
friend.
I'm 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 trying to tell you what you said. when you send $100, the $100 is not going to get there. It's probably going to be 75.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know.
Yes, sir.
Or maybe 75, or maybe $80, or maybe
So
80.
there's a
I mean,
company.
yeah, actually maybe $85. Yeah.
So there's a company we might have all heard of called Western Union. All right.
Yeah.
You've heard of Western Union, right?
Yeah.
You know how who settles their cross-border payments digitally? A third party. I cannot name names, but a third party. So when that happens, right? When that happens, if you're going in a cross currency, so you're looking at least 30 to 60 bips, right, off the mid-market rate. So forget it, right? So to come back to Jay's question, the whole philosophy of Xuno is going to be the whole philosophy of Xuno is going to be literally single currency. Forget the multi-currency wallet. Forget it. Forget that, right? So basically, you can go to an ATM machine here and probably pay $5 and get a better rate than than basically what multi-currency wallet will give. These are all beautifully done marketing campaigns. So yes, I mean, I think so. One of the things we will be doing is we'll have some focus on remittance. Remittance, I think we'll have some focus on remittance, but we'll probably focus on non-remittance. So I've already signed a deal with multiple banks here in Nepal to begin with, and I'm also in the process of signing deals with some banks even in India, where we will issue dollar bank accounts in India, in Nepal. So when that happens, the whole currency conversion friction is done. So the revenue model is probably going to turn into like EBITDA flow through commissions, or like a flat fee or a transaction fee or a subscription fee. So that's how I see this business evolving.
That's awesome.
When that happens, what's gonna happen to Swift? I'm just wondering, because for the longest time everyone's been too dependent on it, right? Like it's literally at the base of everything, even interbank money transfer. At least here, I'm not sure how it is in the States, but at least here we have to use Swift. There's a code that you attach. Like, what's gonna
Yeah.
happen?
So actually, guess what? So Swift is not going away anytime soon. So this
Okay.
ISO 2022 protocol actually is designed by Swift. So they are ahead of the game. So now
Yeah.
the thing is, so they are actually doing it. So I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. But the thing is, see, Swift was set up for, here's also something, like people have to understand. Swift was set up for large value B2B trade payments. Then this whole crazy, innovation happened where the transaction value fell through $50,000, right? Now there is a B2B payment for $10. Now, how are you going to spend in Jay's term, right? $70, $80 per transaction
Yeah.
to send $10? You're going to have to go give money to the bank, right? So Swift is not going away anytime soon. But this whole, whole convergence or whole basically emergence of this whole new ISO 222 protocol is going to redefine, and which actually is created by Swift.
I think I have something to say. I think the Swift, like Bala said, I think Swift is probably never going to go away, to be honest, unless there is like whole movement of using digital currency that every central bank is kind of focusing on CBDC or central bank digital currency. Maybe after that we'll see how things going to evolve. But I think what I've been seeing these days is about how, and then Coinbase actually just launched a USDC settlement using that USDC, just to revalidate what Balda was saying, how USDC can settle wherever in the world on the same currency, same FX, which is 1-to-1, and you can buy, sell, purchase, whatever, right? You're actually spending that same dollar everywhere, and USDC is pegged to USD, and then there is no conversion whatsoever. So I think I can see that the maybe USDC, like US digital currency, might be evolving much more. And again, it depends on how the evolution looks like, because we were talking about earlier, like 50% of the world population, Gen Zs and Alpha, all these 18, 19 years old kid, they are on the internet doing multiple different jobs and getting paid, and guess what, either crypto or
Absolutely.
digital currency, and then they got to spend that money, and then they are working all over the world. So I do see potentially Swift being there for large trade transactions, maybe go back to the prehistoric age, and then maybe evolution of more digital currencies. I'm not saying crypto. I'm saying the central banks establishing more digital currencies, or maybe USDC have more adoption rate around the world.
Mm-mm.
So in fact, actually, Jay, so I need to send you a document. I forgot actually. So Nepal is seriously looking into CBDC.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
so like it doesn't matter if you're going to move money through stablecoin rail. Well, let's not talk about Bitcoin, but or the
Yeah,
fiat rail.
yeah,
The establishment of correspondent banking in New York in Wall Street is not going to go away,
yeah. It's not gonna go away. Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So as long as and these financial institutions are building their entire infrastructure and then platform and compliance on top of Swift. So I think so like Jay said, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. Now with this new protocol being out, and then we are being in actually literally on a front face. I mean, like kind of front of this is I think we're going to see a very interesting evolution of money transfer where the transparency as soon as the transfer is high, I think the barriers are gone, right? So right now the way the money transfer business is like uh, 2023 business kind of operating on an 1876 model. That's it,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is, a lot of things obviously have happened since then, right? So
Yeah,
basically, I think now with this new innovation, and I'm very pleased. I'm very so proud of my team in Machnet. How even though we're not a multi-billion dollar company, how we've inspired the world to think about offering, fintech as a service product, and which actually now leading into cross-border banking as a service.
Hmm.
yeah,
Not a multi-billion-dollar company yet.
yeah. I would
Yes.
probably add that. Yeah,
Happen. I mean, okay, so we've spoken about state of the art strategy of a couple of companies. Maybe let's turn it to the happier side. Are there companies or financial institutions that have been adapting AI and ML and have done it beautifully, and maybe something we can learn from them? Question
yeah,
mark.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I think everybody. I think I think we're again. I think the word AI that we probably need to kind of understand that. I think everybody's probably going to kind of build a lot of things around it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys look into the Shopify, who kind of built a sidekick to understand their merchants' behavior, and then to understand, look at the financials, and then asking questions on the fly to get responses on how does my April sales looks like, why my April sales went down, what can I do better, and things like that. I think like every when there was a gold rush, the people who make money was the one who was selling pickles and shovels, right? So I think what I can see is everybody should be kind of thinking about using their own core expertise and kind of building around that model. Whereby, like I said earlier, about Machnet kind of doing something around transaction monitoring and things like that in our own end. But I haven't seen anybody like AI and remittance or things like that. I haven't really seen anybody actually doing it, because the AI that we understand is more of a generative AI in content generation. I call it like prompt engineering rather than like a true AI. So I think you have to be a bit, I think it's probably maybe an understatement, but I think there's a lot of things that needs to evolve itself. But again, in the last couple of years, the only reason you're seeing a whole lot of things going on is not because it was not there. It was there. I mean, it was just the generative AI has become so much better now. The accuracy is just really close to 100%, which is
Mhm.
why we're seeing this. So yeah, Shopify. I saw Shopify doing something on merchant space, but I haven't seen any like true remittance company kind of utilizing AI. See, at the end of the day, it has to provide value to the customer, right? If the customer can send money cheaper, faster, quicker, and more to the bucks, I think that's where we kind of start seeing that. Maybe when Xuno kind of introduce that, and then maybe we can see good AI, and then see if it's going
Yeah.
to
I
probably,
like that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna think about that.
yeah, and good AI, and can see like more, and maybe we're the first company to kind of market that. I think so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what evolves, but I think we're still in the very infancy stage there.
So
Early.
I have
Yeah.
a little bit of a different take on that. So there is one company I think we can openly name it, Remitly. Remitly does it beautifully. So let's just say I'm logging in at, so right now let's just say it's 8:54 a.m. in Nepal, right? So what Remitly will do is, so every time you log in, so they check your time, and that's when they start sending a message. So they are looking at what time you are logging into your email, and then they are sending. So they are really beautiful at sending, like the promotions at that particular time, right? Then on the other side, so what we've also begun to see is, on the digital identity side, like especially phone number. So phone number, bank account, cards, if it's in a multiple, user, so they are beginning to detect that, especially on the risk side. So like Jay said, I think we're at the inception now. People are really trying to figure out, right?
Yeah.
And then I think people are really trying to figure out the adoption. But there are some really, minimal, AI and ML stuff that's basically getting touched. However, one of the things we are doing in Nepal is something called on the basically line graph technology, where we are comparing relationships, a human, I mean, like person to person relationships, along with how many. If so, Jay suddenly comes to Nepal and is having 10 different bank accounts, so he's going to be in my radar.
Yeah. No, that's pattern recognition. So that's
Yeah.
good, right? That's good. And then those are things I think we should be utilizing these kind of infrastructures to kind of do better, do better, and then be more extra productive, and then kind of flag. I think the
Mm.
more thing that people use and flagging, chargebacks, returns, and fraud transactions, user behaviors, and things, I think it will actually tremendously help the company, platform, users in general, I think.
And I think, like, when like lately I've been also been passionate about AI, and I have a lot of teachers who are teaching me about it. So one of the things that they taught me was, in AI 90% is data and 10% is the visibility, right? So I think
Mm.
we are at the process where everybody understands the value of data and curating it for the visibility. And then I think now that I think people are just figuring out, all right, what data to like curate, and what visibility I want. I think, but we will see it playing instrumental role in going days forward, as the data will continue to increase, and how fast are you going to get the visibility of somebody's identity,
Mm.
somebody's transaction, blah blah blah. So, but I do see it playing a very, very instrumental role.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. I did a quick research on how AI could be impacting the fintech space, and I did see something that has been happening here in Asia also, that works a lot around micro lending. So
Oh
the
yeah.
bank penetration in Southeast Asia especially is what, around 11%. It's really really low. And so I've also been working with some fintech companies here, and then they said that especially those in very rural areas, some of them are still in tribes, some of them are still in mountains, and they don't have access to banks, they don't have access to government issued ID. So it's really hard to open a bank account in the first place. And I feel like how AI has been used, or at least bits of it, in countries around Southeast Asia is they're able to measure credit worthiness, because there's really no credit history or credit score, especially for these villages. And because of that, they're able to tap onto um, digital wallets, and depending on their activities, they're able to borrow
Lend
money,
them money.
mini loans, yeah, for mini stores. We call it sari stores over here, like those shop houses, like in the front where you have sachets of stuff. And we visited a few communities when we were in Cebu last month, and we've seen how much impact that actually had, and all of it because e-wallets chose to work around the AI of measuring worthiness of credit.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I think
Absolutely.
it's a micro lending on, like, kind of looking at the user behavior and cell phone data, and then a
Yeah.
wallet and transaction histories and things like that. So that's awesome. I
Mhm.
think it does
Yeah,
happen. It does happen in
absolutely.
Africa a lot. I think, I don't know, Balda, if you remember Matt Flannery, who runs
Yes,
Branch
yep,
in
yep, yep.
Africa and India. I think he actually have a startup, something similar. Basically, just doing this,
Yes.
giving micro lending, like $100, maybe like $20,
So yeah, he's the global
$300.
pioneer of this. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a global pioneer micro lending using the cell
Mhm.
phone data, precisely that, and I think,
Yeah.
and lend people based on their social graph.
So,
Yeah.
and then I think, I mean, to kind of to kind of I'd say summarize to that is, in Nepal, what we're doing is, so I already have a relationship with the bank where somebody who holds an account with us is pre-approved for a loan of $35,000.
Hmm.
And so these are primarily only for the gig workers and the tech companies. So we are going to be looking at how much money they're making, how much how much money they're getting off the bank account, and then issue them collateral free loan up to $35,000.
Mm.
Right. So
Yeah.
so I
Yeah,
think, yes, 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 yes.
that's
So I
awesome.
think I think So the and AI will be, so I look at this whole any business as a customer acquisition and customer retention, strategy. And fintech is, I think, it's a customer retention technology, and AI is going to be the major component to create a customer retention strategy, right?
Awesome.
So I think that's how I look at it. And then again, I don't see a future without AI in fintech at all.
So speaking of future, I mean, I've loved this and we can do this all day, but for, in the interest of time, I do have one last question for the both of you. In terms of the future, where do we see the space headed? I mean, we've spoken a lot about it. Maybe just in summary, what are the things that we can expect moving forward in the remittance slash fintech slash just money moving world? Yeah. Jay, you
I
want to
Jay,
take
think,
it?
yeah.
yeah, I think we kind of talked about it again. I just wanted to reiterate. I think, and what I agree with Balda here is, I think remittance has become a commodity, and then I think if any company that's going to come along and just want to do remittance, it's going to be really hard for them to beat the market because one, they're mushrooming remittance companies. Second, there are a lot of incumbents who already have kind of penetrated the market at such level, but that remittance business has to turn into a value business, meaning what else you're going to give on top of remittance? Is that going to be banking? Is that going to be lending? Is that going to be other financial services? Is that going to be something else, right? I mean, if remittance business is going to stay as remittance business, I'm pretty sure, I mean, to be honest, we've been doing remittance for like multiple years now, we know it's going to die. So I think there has to be other value added services that any platform provider or remittance provider in general has to start thinking about it now, either utilizing AI or utilizing some other services and adding more, I would say revenue verticals and service verticals or product verticals to their end users. If it's platform or their users, if there is like a provider in general. So I think it is going to evolve there. We're already seeing that, like every company is already providing banking services or lending services, investment services. Those type of stuff is already happening. We're seeing it, and we still have a lot of companies who does only do core remittance. I think they should probably watch out. So that probably is my kind of predictions, I would say. And then hopefully it's not going to last more than 5 years. I think in 5 years we'll see this happening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I definitely agree with them. So I would kind of speak in a different tone. Uh, as the globalization has evolved from 1.0 to 4.0 today, right? So I'd say the era we are living in right now is probably one of the greatest achievement of human invention and discoveries. Finally, our new world is being created where I think irrespective of your skin color, irrespective of where you're born, you could probably have the same rights. The notion of borders has gone, right? And the biggest transformation that we will see is the basically living in a borderless world, and that's only been possible because of this crazy innovation in fintech, right? So I'd say finally we figured out a way to create a world in all aspects, in managing poverty, in managing environment, in making sure we are all, like we are not like, for example, let me get you on a serious note. Yesterday, I literally had tears in my eyes reading an article. In the last 15 years, we've sent, I don't know, God knows how many kids to, migrant workers abroad. And guess how many came back in a box? 12,000 people came back in a box. All right. So
Yeah.
we actually, I mean, like, so that's a huge number. Now, compare that to any war, right? So globalization 3.0, yes, enabled, this really, really, really helped push the migration, but there's a cost to it, right? There's a lot of social cost to it. I'm sure it's the same thing in Philippines, the relationship being separated, there's so many social, injustices and outcomes that has come out. But finally, world got its shit together, right? So finally, world got shit together to create a borderless world. So finally, people like Jay, myself, we got on our bandwagon. We didn't create this because we wanted to just create another billion-dollar company. We wanted to create a flat world, right? And that evolved into whatever it is today. So we're doing the most amazing part of a human history, where we will continue to exist and live in a world that we will share equal responsibility. And all of this is possible because I could be on a bloody island in Philippines right? And not having to worry about traveling to Middle East and Malaysia, and not having to worry about coming back in a box. I could be there making my contribution, right? In basically making sure that the human race moves forward. So thanks to fintech, and that's what fintech is to me. So it's not about trying to solve a FX problem. It's not about trying to solve a, like a fees problem. It's not right trying to solve a business limit problem. It's about creating that equitable society, and we are really, really in the beginning. And to close it off, like, for being from Nepal, so Nepal has just passed multiple policies, showing to the world that we are probably way ahead in terms of embracing a borderless world. So that's what I see, and I'm really excited about the future. And thank you, Jay. I'm really proud of you. So
Yeah.
he's
Thank
been
you.
one of my, I'd say, one of my most amazing discoveries. I've learned a lot from him, and then I hope he's learned great stuff from me.
We'll talk about that.
And I'm really proud. When I met him, he was a guy, with who has worked in PwC for 5 years, and said, Dai, I'm making freaking, I'm making whatever people makes in a amount of hour I'm putting in, that I'm making what somebody does in a McDonald's. Not that I'm trying to basically compare somebody to McDonald's, but the thing is, I said, you want to create a better board, or you want to keep on counting for somebody else? So I'm glad he's helped create this beautiful world.
Yeah.
But
He
again,
hasn't
I've loved.
regretted his decision yet. So great job, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
All
Thank
So
you.
right.
that is a wrap, you guys. Thank you so much for such an interesting and insightful conversation. But wait, before we go, can we take an official photo to remember this,
Yes.
please?
Yes.
All right. Okay. There you go. Agatha, everybody, we are ready. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, safety
It's
shot.
good.
All right,
One,
you take
Okay.
care.
one last photo.
Okay.
Okay,
Happiest
sure.
photo. Okay.
All right.
Ready, set, go. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I should
Thank
have
Thank
made
you.
my foot face.
you so
Huh?
much.
All right, you take care. You take care. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Valdai. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate
It
it.
was so lovely meeting you and speaking with you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was the founder of Xuno, Mr. Baj Joshi. I hope everyone here learned a lot. That was so fun, Jay.
It was amazing. It was fun. There's a
Right,
lot of things
that
that we
was fun.
always, I know him for a long period of time. It's always fun to chat with him. But at the same time, you always learn something from him. You always have some experience that he shares that we never talked about. So yeah, it was really good chat. So get to understand a lot what Juno is all about. And then
Mhm.
I think looking forward for his August 1st lunch and see what he's going to is going to change the world.
Right. And I love because his background is very people oriented. And so with everything he does, he brings that along with him. Like
Uh,
you really see how he focuses on lives changed and impact, regardless of whatever tenet or industry he's working in. So that's pretty
yeah,
cool. And
yeah,
I'm sure that a lot of our audience members here has learned a lot from this episode too. If you have questions, concerns, things you want to share, the comment section is open for you guys. If there's anything that you want to bring up, I'm sure Jay is more than happy to answer those for you. And speaking of Jay, while we are here, I do want to remind everyone that, well, first, thank you so much for staying till the very end of this conversation. And because of that, Jay has a gift for all of you guys. He has an
yes,
ebook up for grabs. So if you are in the business or the face of raising funds, all of Silicon Valley's best kept secrets are in this ebook. So you can see that QR code on your screen. All you have to do is grab your phone, scan that, and download that ebook now. And of course, if you want to know more about Jay, about Machnet, about fintech in general, do follow Jay on his socials. That's at Tech Talks with Jay on Instagram, Jay Dahal on LinkedIn, and www.jaydahal.com. All right, there you go. It's been another whirlwind of conversation and an episode. I'm
yes.
so happy that we were able to do this, Jay. To everyone watching, once again, thank you so much. My name is Zara Carbonell, and
This is TikTok with Jay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so
thanks,
much. I really
guys.
appreciate it. It was really fun. Thank you. Bye.